Your cybersecurity solution is here. Introducing Pentester's Advanced Cybersecurity Suite. Ready for peace of mind? Try it for free. No credit card required. Pentester.com.
I didn't know that tape even existed. That was the first time in all these years I heard that particular tape. And that's one thing that I liked about Get Gotti was because let's be honest. There has been a ton of documentaries about John, and we heard a lot of the tapes 100 different times in 100 different shows. When that incident took place, all our lives would have been different today. Big time. He would have been right in the mix with them.
Outside. Oh, it's just a mob war. Go back to sleep, honey.
Forgiveness, please.
Hello, everybody. My name's Anthony Ruggiano Jr. I want to welcome everybody to Reform Gangsters. If you like our content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Also, it would be great if you became a Patreon member. That helps me with my content and to better do my program. So please become a Patreon member. Starting in December, the fourth Wednesday of each month, I'm going to have a recovery sit down. A lot of people have been reaching out to me for help with addiction. I'm in recovery. I'll be clean 35 years, January 12th. So moving forward, every fourth Wednesday of the month, we're going to have a recovery sit down for those people that are in recovery and those people that need to be in recovery. They can come onto my Zoom. I'll be putting out a link to it, and it'll be the fourth Friday of every month. And it's going to provide a safe place for people to share their experiences, strength, and hope, where we could get some guidance, where we could help each other stay clean and sober, so, and live a drug-free lifestyle. So please come join me the fourth Friday of every month starting in November. But there'll be more information to come. And I'm just looking to, give away what's so freely given to me. And, by me helping you, you help me, and we help each other. Also, I just came back I had a whirlwind experience for 3 days in Manhattan, the city as us New Yorkers call it. It was a great experience. I did Matthew Millennium's Choice podcast that will be coming out soon. I also had the privilege of doing James English's show, which is a major show in the UK. That will be coming out soon. I did Andrea's show, the female that was on Get Gotti with me. I did her show also. That will be coming out. There's a lot of energy going on with her on Get Gotti. A lot of tough questions. So stay tuned. So all that content will be coming out. Also, I'll be also coming back to New York in January to go and do the Zapata brand podcast. I want to thank them for their support. They sent me some shirts, which I wore yesterday in my podcast. I'll be wearing them in the future. They also sent me a mic, but I haven't set it up yet. I have it right here. I will be setting it up soon. I want to thank them for that. They're really good guys, and I'm looking forward to doing some work with them and putting out some good stuff with them. Also, I'm very excited. Next Saturday, December 2nd, I'll be in Miami. I'm filming a documentary for the History Channel about the mob and the drug cartels that were running around South Florida in the late 70s and early 80s. When I was down here with my old man, we had a restaurant on the 79th Street Causeway, and a lot of mob guys hung out in there, and a lot of big time drug dealers hung out in there. So I don't know the name of it yet. I don't think it is named yet, but I'll be filming that December 2nd. I'm looking forward to that. I'll have more information on that soon. And my poll last week was getting to know my viewers poll last week, the election day. Out of these four, who would you do the best running the U.S.? It was JFK Jr., Joe Biden, Ron DeSantis, or Donald Trump. And What a shocker. Trump won. 68% of the vote was for Trump. So we'll see how that works out come the end of 2024. I had another poll about what are you grateful for? What am I grateful for Thanksgiving? I'm grateful that I still have my family in my life, that I'm healthy, that I'm grateful that I'm clean. I'm grateful that I'm not in prison. I spent a lot of Thanksgivings locked up, and I'm just grateful that that my life has changed. A lot of people have been writing into me, asking me questions about Mark Reiter, who was one of Andrea's boyfriends. I think she lived with him before he went to prison. I knew him. He was a friend of mine. Also, his son Greg was a friend of mine. Mark was a major heroin trafficker in the New York City area. He was directly with John Gotti. They were great friends. I was in his company many, many times. Very charismatic guy, very sharp dresser, very intelligent. Had tons, major earner, major heroin dealer. Sold drugs to the likes of Nicky Barnes, who was a famous heroin dealer out of Harlem. Still in prison. Been in prison, I think, almost 40 years now, over 30 years, for trafficking in heroin. His son Greg was murdered by Tommy Karate, I believe. His son was also a nice guy. I did business with his son. He had a vending company. He had vending machines in our number spots in Jamaica up until his death. But Mark was a major heroin dealer. Good guy, as far as that goes. I mean, he was a good sport, good spender, and he's been in jail for a lot of years. Dangerous guy. What was the last TV show I binged on? I binged on a lot of shows. The last show I binged on, I haven't really been binging on anything because I've been working. So I've been watching episodes here and episodes there. But the last show I binged on was Gomorrah. It's about the mob in Italy. I binged on it in Italian and read the subtitles.
And then growing up, how many TVs in your house did you have?
Well, that's a good question because, I was talking about that just recently. Most of the time, when I was very young, my earliest memories, we had a black and white TV. The first TV I ever remember was actually in my grandmother's house. She had a little black and white TV that was in the 50s. And then we had a Zenith TV in our house, a black and white. But most of the time, we only had one. And then later on, we had two, but one was in my father's bedroom and one was and the big one, always a Zenith. It was like a piece of furniture, was in the living room. The day we got our first color TV. And I remember my father going out that morning, and my brother and I knew he was coming home that day with our first color TV. This was in early 1960s. And I remember he went out that day, and we waited all day for him to come home. I remember him walking up the stairs. Me and my brother were standing on top of the stairs, and I remember him walking up the stairs with this big box on his shoulder, and he set up the TV. And and that week, for the first time in our lives, we watched all our shows in color for the first time. I Dream of Jeannie, F True, Batman, all them 60 shows. We watched them all for the first time. And I remember the big thing was all year, to watch for the very first time in our whole lives, The Wizard of Oz in color. Because when Dorothy lands in Oz, The Wizard of Oz turned to color. The beginning was in black and white, but when the house landed on the witch and she got out it was in Oz, it was in color, and we waited all year because it was only shown at Easter time back then, The Wizard of Oz. And we waited all year to watch it for the first time in color. So, that was, I think it was I don't know if it was better than it is today, but, we had no internet, we had no smartphones, we had no Google, so getting a color TV was very exciting. It was also like the first time we got an air conditioner. We only had one in our house. But the first air conditioner we got, my father brought it home, and put it up in his bedroom. And I remember that night, we all slept, me and my brother and my sister slept on the floor in my mother's bedroom because they had air conditioning. Because back then, the only place you felt air conditioning was in two places, in some restaurants and all the movie theaters had air conditioning. Otherwise, nobody had air conditioning in the houses.
Did Fat Andy have a favorite TV show?
He used to like, he was a movie guy. He didn't really like watch many TV shows. He used to like to watch the $1 Million Movie. Back then, there was the $1 Million Movie was on. He was more of a movie guy, but he would watch, if he was home, he would watch like Ed Sullivan with us and shows like that. But he wasn't like a TV guy. He was watched most of the time when he watched TV, it was movies. And he used to, believe it or not, he used to like to watch game shows in the day. My grandfather was a TV guy. He used to watch, I watched more shows with my grandfather. We would watch Bonanza and all those type shows. But my father was more like movies. He was more into movies.
Did you and your brother have a favorite cartoon?
Yeah, probably when we were little kids, Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. That was way before your time. A lot. Probably was Mighty Mouse.
You know any guys that reminded you of any of the Sopranos characters in real life?
Yeah, they had a lot of mannerisms of a lot of different wise guys. I mean, they're not that they didn't remind me 100% of them, but they had traits of wise guys. Like some of them even had traits of my old man and Tony Lee and John. I mean, I think the writers of The Sopranos were around wise guys and picked, certain things out because they were pretty spot on with a lot of stuff on that show. So it was like certain characteristics of wise guys I could see, but like to have one solely 100% like somebody, no, not to me anyway. But I did see characteristics of wise guys I knew in some of the characters for sure.
In Netflix's Get Gotti, in the beginning of episode 1, you hear Gotti on tape saying there may be 50 Andys, Pauls, but never another John Gotti. Was he referencing your father, Fat Andy?
I'm gonna play that. I don't know if we could hear it. I'm gonna try to play that. Hold on.
Listen, old fella. You better know 50 Andys, 500 cows, 25 hours, buddies for. There's one motherfucking John Gotti.
I don't know if you heard that, but so I didn't know that tape even existed. That was the first time in all these years I heard that particular tape. And that's one thing that I liked about Get Gotti was because let's be honest. There has been a ton of documentaries about John, and we heard a lot of the tapes 100 different times in 100 different shows. But there was some tapes in Get Gotti that were heard for the first time, which separated it from other documentaries, in my opinion. And I think that's why it was such a big hit, because they did introduce some new stuff. And that was one of the new tapes. And what I could say about that is, so here's a guy I've been saying this all along on many, many shows that Fat Andy and Tony Lee knew John Gotti from when he was a teenager. Some people want to dispute that. It's undisputable. And in East New York, Brooklyn, kids like John Gotti and Nicky Carrazza and all these other gangsters and Jeannie Gotti wanted to be Fat Andy. He was the wise guy in East New York that these kids, these good kids and these gangster kids wanted to be like. He was who they all wanted to be Fat Andy at one time. So here's the guy that's the boss now and the pinnacle of that lifestyle. And he's talking about something, and Andy is still in his brain. And that's from when he was a teenager. And him saying you could get 50 Andys, there's only one Andy he's talking about, and that's Fat Andy, and that's undisputable. There was no other Andys that he was talking about. So here he is, he's putting Fat Andy, he's saying 50 Fat Andys, so many cars, so that's Carlo Gambino, that's undisputable. There's 15 Alberts, that's Albert Anastasia, that's undisputable, and Paul and 20 Pauls, That's Paul Castellano. It's undisputable. So he's putting Fat Andy in the same category as 3 bosses and himself. So he's putting Fat Andy in the same category as 4 bosses: Carlo Gambino, Albert Anastasia, Paul Castellano, and of course, there's only one John Gotti, so he's better than all of them, which that's how he felt, and that's how he felt, and that's legit, that he made it to the top. I mean, look what he accomplished in that. You can't accomplish what he accomplished, being a dummy. He accomplished a lot. He's at the top of the game, and he felt he was better than him. But there's only one Andy he was talking about, and that's Fat Andy, and we know who he is. He was my relative, and that's all. And it's undisputable. So when I watched it and I heard that for the first time, I go, holy shit, he's talking about my old man. That's he didn't say Fat Andy, he said 50 Andys, but we all know who he meant. I mean, so that's undisputable. And the rest of the names, Carl Gambino, Albert Anastasia, Paul Castellano, I mean, that's who he was talking about. So even though my old man was in prison at the time, he was still a thought in his mind. And that's why, it's unfortunate in that life. I mean, in that life, it's unfortunate that at that time, Fat Andy was in prison, because if he was home when that incident took place, all our lives would have been different today, big time. He would have been right in the mix with them, because he did not have any love for Paul. And he was a street guy. He was a hoodlum. He was a gangster, just like them. He got along very good with them, with John and Angelo and Sammy. And, he was well respected. He was dangerous, and he would have been right in the mix. He would have probably got a position with John after that. I mean, and who knows? He always felt that he missed the boat, because unfortunately he was in prison when all that took place. But he definitely was a thought in John's mind. If you enjoy my show, please join my Patreon, ask your questions live, and please join my Patreon at reformedgangsters.com.
What was Fat Andy's opinion on Sammy Gravano?
He always liked Sammy. He never had a bad thing to say about Sammy. He was a tough guy. He always liked Sammy. He introduced me to Sammy when I was young. Always liked Sammy. Always liked Sammy's captain, Tato. They grew up together in the hood. They both took different routes. When Albert Anastasia got clipped, Tato went one way. My old man went another way with Tony Lee. But when they made peace, he was good friends with them. Never had a bad thing to say about Sammy, or Tony Lee never had any. They both liked Sammy. There was nothing not to like about Sammy when he was in the street. He was a tough guy. He was an earner. What is there not to like? He was the whole package when he was out there. My recovery sit down was good. I mean, it just started. We talked about some good recovery. There was a couple of people on. One person had 15 years. He's a retired NYPD. And I think it's going to go well. We identified with a lot of stuff, and I hope more people join in. I hope it picks up some steam. It's a good way for me to help people and help myself. I would like to create an army of reformed gangsters in recovery. That's my goal, to create an army of recovery.
What's your experience been like over the past decade working with recovering addicts? Has it been more male, more female?
It's always more male. There's always more male. Always more males in recovery than females. Even in the street, in the rooms, in the 12-step meetings, there's always more men than women. Women deal with a lot of different issues than men. Plus, women, women could we have to be honest here. Women could prostitute themselves. So they're going to stay out there longer than men. They can make, they stay out longer because number one is they could sell their bodies, because men are going to always buy sex. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So that's number one. Women have a way to earn money. Number two is women deal with a lot of more guilt than men, because a lot of them lose their children. They give up their children, they lose their children, so that they have that issue to deal with. So in my experience, there's always more males than females. And today there are more females coming in than ever before, but still more males than females. Like in my detox, like the other day, we had 24 patients. And let's see, we had, out of 24 patients, we had 5 females and 19 males. So, you know, there's always more males than females because they deal with different issues, and females just, for some reason, stay out longer than men. You know, they just, it's just the way it is, unfortunately. But there are more females coming in now than ever before, but still not as many as the men. In my treatment centers, we deal with a lot of middle class people, mostly middle class. I mean, there'll always be some really wealthy people coming in. Sometimes there's homeless people coming in. You know, we're getting a lot of people now that are kind of homeless because now they have the government is giving out free healthcare. So we've been getting a lot of people that are coming in right off, more than ever before, more people coming in right off the street than ever before because of the government giving out free healthcare that the taxpayers pay for. So a lot of people now are coming in that didn't have that opportunity to come in before. But the ratio is mostly middle class, and 90% of the people have insurance, some kind of insurance. The feedback I get, well, the drugs, the fentanyl is coming from China. It's coming up through Mexico. Most of the drugs today are coming through Mexico, coming from China. Well, the fentanyl is coming from China. There's no doubt about it. It's coming from China through Mexico. It's not coming directly to the United States. Nothing, I don't think, comes directly here anymore. I think everything's coming up through Mexico. I mean, come on, I don't want to talk politics, but anybody could walk across the border. I mean, the drugs are coming in from the south. You know, the border's open. I mean, no matter what you hear, there's no more border. It's all coming in from Mexico. The Chinese coming in, sending the fentanyl to Mexico, and the cartel is bringing it into the United States. Listen, the United States. Listen, we're the biggest drug we're the biggest drug users in the world. Unfortunately, the American citizen is the biggest drug user in the world. And that's it. That's the bottom line. We always were and we always will be. We're the biggest drug user in the world. And that's it. And so there's always going to be drugs. There's always going to be people smuggling drugs into this country. Is legalizing it the answer? I don't believe it is. I think education and treatment is the answer to it. But by legalizing shit ain't helping anything. What's the root of the addiction problem? Listen, addiction is a personal addiction. You know, people become addicted for a lot of different reasons. You know, there's a lot of theories. Some say it's hereditary, it's a family disease, it's a defective gene. I think it's I think it's a mixture of everything. I think it's genetics. I think it's your environment. I mean, you know, I can only use myself as an example. There was an addiction in my family before I was born. You know, there was alcoholism in my family. There was gambling addiction. You know, gambling addiction is just like drug addiction. You know, my uncle Jr. was a degenerate gambler. My grandfather was a big gambler. You know, there was alcoholics in my family before I was born. So I think there was a genetic thing in me. And I think my environment, I was born in, you know, raised in Ozone Park. When in my era, my childhood, everybody used drugs. It was the 60s. Everybody was smoking weed. Everybody was taking LSD. I joined in, peer pressure, whatever you want to say. In the 70s, everybody was blowing coke. I joined in. So I think it's a mixture of, I think a lot of different things contribute to drug addiction. Does everybody become addicts? No, that's where I feel it's a genetic thing and a behavioral thing, because like I used with a lot of kids, but not all of us grew up to have drug problems. I did, you know? So I think it's just a lot of different things. I don't think there's one thing you could pinpoint what causes addiction. I don't think we could pinpoint one thing. I think it's a combination of things. What resources do we need? We need more treatment centers. We need more access to treatment centers. We need more access to education. We need more access to law enforcement. I think they should make the drug laws stricter and not lenient. I think they should have minimum mandatory drug sentences again. I think people are not afraid to get arrested anymore because they're not giving out a lot of time anymore. They're letting people out now instead of putting people in. I think they should make more stricter laws when it comes to drugs, harsher penalties like it used to be. I think they need to do a lot of different things.
You think Mayor Adams and the governor cutting education and the police by billions is going to help with that?
No, not no more. I mean, now it's So I was speaking a couple of months ago to an FBI agent. He called me to see how I was. Periodically they give me a call to talk to see how I am. They check in with me. Every once in a while they check up on me. You know what I mean? And he gave me a call, and I was teasing him. I go, listen, I don't want to say his name. I go, listen, so and so. I'll say Joe. His name's not Joe, but I said, hey Joe, listen, I want to tell you something. Listen, I'm thinking, I think I'm going to move. And he goes, really? He goes, where are you going to move? I go, I don't know yet, but it's definitely going to be to a Democratic city because I think I'm going to go back into crime. He goes, what? I go, yeah. I go, why not? I go, I'll just go. I'll grab myself a couple of Louis Vuittons, once a week. I'll sell them for $500 a pop. I can make myself $2,000-3,000 a week. I'll go into a Nike store with a black garbage bag. I'll load it up with sneakers. I'll make another Gino. I go, I might as well. What the hell? Why should I go to work 12 hours a day and kill myself? I'll just move to a Democratic city and I'll just grab whatever I could grab. Why not? No, everybody else is doing it. Nobody's going to jail. I might as well do it too. I said, well, my skills, I'll make a ton of money. I said, I'm really thinking about going back into, doing that. He thought I was serious. He goes, come on, are you kidding? Like, he got nervous. Like, I could hear it in his voice. He believed me. Like, I go, I'm only kidding, but, it sounds pretty good, don't it? Because that's what's going on. Listen, you can't even get a toothbrush no more. I was in New York. They got the toothbrushes locked up. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Not where I live. In Florida, there's nothing locked up. Why is that? Why is that? In LA, it's all locked up. In New York, it's all locked up. In Chicago, it's all locked up. In Detroit, it's all locked up. It ain't locked up in Florida. Why is that? Let's have that poll. Why is that? Who runs the cities? Who's running those states? I mean, come on. I mean, listen, let's get real here.
Good Lord, do we really need all those ramps?
Who's to say? Does a peacock need all those feathers?
Look, you're getting a little philosophical for me.
I suppose so. They say it happens in the autumn years.
Well, be that as it may.
Get your hand off my car.